Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Great, great, great. Because I'm the last speaker, and I have a biggest challenge because look at Father Ray just now, and look at Mark, and yesterday we had JP. So I will need to teach you guys about innovation. Nah, and so that's my challenge today. So I need your help in this area. Okay. So before I start, perhaps I want to show you a little video, very much to what you heard with what Father Ray do, but you know what? They're making a business out of it. So this is about solar panels. Please. Uh, wait. I think they're trying to.
Actually has a solar home system, and that's their primary source of.
Yes.
Bangladesh has one of the largest solar home system markets in the world. Over 5 million solar home systems. So most households in every rural area in Bangladesh actually has a solar home system, and that's their primary source of energy. So what we do is we interconnect solar home systems and we enable energy sharing between them, which is basically trading. And the customer chooses when they want to trade and when they don't. Instead of building large grids, we're proposing a decentralized structure where we start building grids bottom up.
Any home that has solar panels and a battery can buy this special box, which connects them to another house with the same setup. The box allows the buying or selling of energy between the homes. What this means is that all the boxes can connect to each other to form a microgrid. It's like a water tank of community energy that people can give to or take from. The beauty is that this microgrid can then connect to the adjacent village's microgrid, and the network becomes stronger and stronger.
You have one solar home system, you interconnect with your neighbors, you make it 50. Slowly, you interconnect villages. Once you've collected 100 villages, you can put it up to the grid. You can sell to the grid. Forget buying from it. You become the primary energy generation source for the country. So the idea is we are like a swarm of bees or a swarm of fish that move together, pool in all our energies together to run bigger loads. Decentralized generation sources. Every household has their own generation source. They're independent and they have that power in their own hands instead of depending on the government to provide it to them. Bangladesh has one of the largest solar home system markets.
So okay. So you can see, you talk about solar energy, and you are actually putting solar panels on top of your households and all the different houses to save money, right? But you know what? It could also generate money, right? If you actually work together as a community, work together as an ecosystem, then you could provide energy for the people around you to do other things, you know? So it's very interesting because that's what innovation is all about. And yes, hi, I'm Adrian, and I'm from Singapore. And this is my presentation for today. So I come here with a purpose and a mission, and that purpose is business improvement and business innovation, right? And what I want to do is to provide success for social enterprises like you, like those around you here. And how I do that? I do that in the form of workshop facilitation, a little bit of coaching, and also by using business design principles. So how many of you are familiar with design thinking? Could you put up your hand? Okay. Okay. Very good, Angel. So design thinking is a process where you actually come and think and start from scratch, right? And you start to understand what the problem is. So it's a problem-centric process. But the important thing is you're not solving the problem. You're solving the opportunity. Because if you go and we want you to do is we want you to dig down and understand what the problem, the root cause of the problem is. And there's always a root cause. And when you find the root cause, you realize it's very far and very different from what the problem is in the first place, right? But business design is an extension of design thinking because you need to bring that forward because, you know, if you see companies these days, a lot of them say, oh, after my first design, and it's my first invention, I thought it's very good, right? But the problem is for these companies, even though the inventions are good, they will only fit for purpose among their friends because, you know what? your friends will support you in any case. But if you go to the big bad world outside, right, and you go international, whatever not, this problem will not cut the situation. So what we try to do here is to look at things from a social enterprise perspective, and the different, as you can see, there are different satellites around there. So I shall not bore you with this, but what I want to do is also to share with you where I come from. Okay, so I was schooled in St. Joseph's Institution. So I'm the LaSallian representative here in this group because there are no LaSallians in this community. Am I right to say that? Right. So yeah, so we're from LaSalle. Vincent there is also a LaSallian, and basically it was founded in 1852. So the name of that unit that we formed, I call it 1852 because all of us LaSallians, or Josephians as we call ourselves, are trying to help build together collectively because of our allegiance to the school to help build social enterprises. And as you see the title of this slide, it says, learn to live, to become men and women of integrity and for others. And that's what it's all about, right? That's Jesus, the man for others, right? Not for himself, right? And St. John Baptist de La Salle talks about the last, the least, and the lost. And that's where we want to focus our energies on. Oops, sorry. And that's our mission too. Okay. So what are we trying to solve here today, right? So for the Bangladeshi situation, you're trying to solve the problem of energy, right? And how can we create that impact to become successful social entrepreneurs? So that's our problem statement, right? But it's different for every one of you, right? So what happens? And I guess when I think the two speakers in the morning, you're talking about for everything there's a time for a season, no? Have you ever heard the song Turn, Turn, Turn by the Birds? To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Yes, biblical verse, yeah? Yeah, so basically it starts with a purpose, and you all have your purpose because your mission is your purpose. God is your purpose. And God, as a Catholic, as a Christian, right, your values start with giving glory to our Lord, right? And with that purpose and vision, it should drive your mindset. And what's your mindset like, right? If I say that, hey, I can start building hydroponics in my slum. I can start coming out and feeding my village with rabbits. And you say you can do it. And in your mind, you just do it. And Father Ray, thank you very much for that presentation, right? So that is what I call a very positive mindset. Similarly, Father JP, he could do it. So I guess that's where we need to come in and to see in ourselves, what can we do? How can we create that impact, right? Because that is going to drive our behavior, right? And how we behave, we work as though that we can do it rather than, oh, we can't do it. So we take a step back, right? So positivity is important. And because only behaviors drive outcomes, right? So what kind of mindset do we have? So we all hear about people adopting what we call the growth mindset. A growth mindset is about how you actually try and grow yourself and how you actually try to improve yourself so that you grow and be a better person. But you know what? When you do that, there's something that you need to consider, the ecosystem around you. If you do it on your own, independently, don't forget you might leave dead bodies behind. So what do? You have a benefit mindset. So for example, if that what you guys are doing now, if I'm doing something and growing something, who am I helping, right? Because we are an ecosystem. And what does that mean? We also need to help our donors. And how we help our donors? Help our donors what? By reduce funding and financing for them. But you know what? When they see you can do well, they'll give you more, right? We try and increase self-funding because at the end of the day, you want to be, when you become an enterprise, for social good, you will be a little bit more powerful, and a lot of people want to work with you. Later on, you see in my slides. Again, you change the structure and behaviors, and you know what? You improve outcomes. And that's what we're going to try to do, okay? Together, right? So this is a table activity. Yeah? I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? First question. What is the main source of income for the families in your village? Can you write down, and I'll point to your table and you tell me? So for example, Father Ray, what's your main source of income? Collecting garbage. Very good, right? So that's one. How about yourself, Father Clarence? Construction work. Okay, so there's collecting garbage, there's construction work. Sisters, what's the main source of income for your village? Beg your pardon? Buy and sell. What do you buy and sell? Foods. Okay, so you trade in, but where do you find the foods? Are there farmers in your village or whatever not? No. Okay, so there's trading over there. So you have people who are with trading, they have reached to different buyers, right? So anybody who buy and sell things, can they collaborate with sister to buy and sell things, right? So there's an ecosystem here. And all of you have a little bit of strength there, right? So question number 2, who are the users and buyers of your products, right? So you buy and sell. You buy and sell to, can you identify who you buy and sell to? The market. And who's the local market? So who are the people in the local market? Housewives, that sort of thing, right? Okay, Father Clarence, sorry to get you again. Who do you buy and sell to? The building storehouses. So those who need to make buildings or houses. So they buy and sell skill, right? And let's get somebody else. The table over there. Hi. Who do you buy and sell to? Huh? Within your village or outside of the village? Outside of the village. That's very good, because you know what? Yeah, you know what? Because at the end of the day, when you start looking into your village, your little community is myself. It starts first, and that's your ecosystem. But if you expand that ecosystem to your family and your local community, you see, the umbrella becomes bigger. With each umbrella, and I borrow from systems thinking from our brother Angel here, right? You know, if you look at the umbrella, every umbrella inside has got their own system, because there are many families and many myself in the umbrella, and each got their own perspectives of things. Each got their own causal loops, lah. If you say, you know. So I deal with you, you deal with me. But when I do something, it might impact somebody else in the village, sort of thing. But if you want to go to and internationalize your ideas, that's a bigger umbrella out there, because the world is even more complicated. And not everybody is as nice as the people in this room, right? So what do we do about that? So what we need to do is to understand and sell our purpose, right? We cannot, I repeat, we cannot control what other people think, but we can influence, right? And what we say and what we do can influence the other party, right? So there's a lot of soft psychological skills involved in change management, which I think most people would consider the technical part of it, but not the psychological part of it. And that is where change happens, actually. So you become part of a satellite of an ecosystem, and what will happen is you have shared purpose, right? If everybody works according to the same purpose, and depending on how far reaching it is, it'll be more complex, right? And the structure dealing with this, you will be dealing with different people. And eventually what you need to do is learn the basic idea of, I remember the Thai speaker just now talking about empathy, right? Because empathy is the key to unlocking the change within you and within the people around you. Empathy plus influence. Okay? So this is the big bad world, right? And what do you have over there? Inflation, right? And I know in Singapore, you know, the simple noodles that you get in Singapore, I know it's hard to get noodles in the Philippines, but in Singapore, we have different types of noodles, and everybody's asking, hey, where to get those noodles, right? And the noodles in Singapore, it went up by 30 to 40% in the last 2 to 3 years. My Singaporean friends, do you agree with me? Right? So my favorite bowl of bak chor mee actually came out and came from $4 to $6. That's normal right now. And that's an impact because right now, my purchasing power has dropped by that much, right? And then you get other sorts of influence, social influences like Black Lives Matter, the LGBT crowd, whatever not, right? Coming in. So there are many of these things that are trying to influence because social media is active down there. So there's good and ethical use of it. And how do you actually work around these influences? Because if you want to trade internationally, you have the big bad world. Now, of course, Father Ray is very common with this is a common site, Father Ray's area. And of course, you know about this, right? The war, Israel versus Palestine, and of course, Ukraine, and of course, the Houthis, whatever not, right? They're going to disrupt the movement of goods and services. And then I've got our favorite friend here, AI, Mr. Alaric. Yeah. So AI, what's going to happen? What happened with AI? Immediately, because I'm a career coach as well, by the way. So I coach individuals who has been displaced from their roles. And it's good, the company is good enough to actually hire me to try and help them transition into the next role. Or perhaps they want to become an entrepreneur or anything like that. So interesting thing is 30% of jobs are expected to go. And it won't come back again. It's a structural unemployment, right? The structural economy changes. So you need AI capability. People understand how to use AI to be able to replace them. But unfortunately, in terms of education level, the education level is not leveling up to that. So that's something that we may want to consider when grooming our children or in the villages. What are you going to learn about it, right? Then countries need to ask. So basically, the second one is, who are the people controlling AI? Right? You look at Sam Altman, you know, he was ousted because he received the board of directors. Yeah, one of them is from Georgetown University, the board of directors. Yeah, and then of course there's Elon Musk, who recently negotiated a $56 billion yearly annual package. And these people, do you think they understand what is going on in Philippines? Or in Jakarta, for that matter, or Laos or Bangladesh? I don't think they can empathize with it as much, right? The challenge is there, but we need to bridge the two sides together, right? So what are your, and who are your stakeholders? Because the people with the money are the people who don't understand, right? So we need to look at things and see things from the eyes of the people who are receiving the goodness from you, right? So this is an interesting chart, okay? You're familiar with the idea, this is called an innovation diffusion chart, okay? And anybody who read Simon Sinek's Start With Why, you at least see this chart appearing, but without the gap there. So just now I mentioned, right, if you may have initial business success and with early adopters because you can do something very well, but if you're trying to grow and bring this forward, so let's say Father Ray's idea of raising rabbits, it may work in your community, it may work in other villages, but if you want to bring that internationally, will it work too? Well, that's a question mark because maybe in India, most of them are vegetarians. So then we need to look at different ways. Maybe the farming part will work for them, right? So then it's understanding, it's empathizing with them. So what needs to happen with your model? You need to adjust your model to ensure that it becomes relevant to the early majority here. Because these people don't know you. They don't know Father Ray. They don't know Father JP. They don't know Spring Ray Global. But you know what? They know whether your product can work and it's good for me. So you need to understand what they are thinking, right? And what's happening is, I'll ask you another question, right? So in your tables here, so I like the tables, eh? Is there a demand for what you are providing outside your village? So I think you have the question, say yes, right? Father Ray, yes. The rest of the community, is there a demand? So this table out there, sisters, is there a what does your village do in terms of their produce farming? So is there a demand for your produce outside of your village? Yes? Yeah. So how do you, oops, there's no demand for my slides. Hold on, here you go. Yeah. Okay. So there's a demand, right? So how far does your demand go? How about outside your region, your province? Yeah, do you actually transport your produce to outside of your province? Or does it go to overseas? You do? Your bananas? Beg your pardon, sorry? Okay. So coconut water? Coconut water, right? Fantastic. You see, so that is an example of someone who's actually who's actually managed to connect with the ecosystem to actually export coconut water, right? Which is very good, right? And so basically, what you do is whatever you're thinking, whatever you're doing, how far are you going? How far ahead do you go? And the other question is, if you're not at that stage, because I'm sure there are a few business here who can be quite local in the first place, what does it take for you to get outside of your village, right? What does it take for you to get nationally within your countries, and what does it take for you to go overseas? Because you don't know who is receiving your products and services. Maybe in some countries you will like the coconut water. Some countries may use it as a condiment to make curry, like Thailand, right? So we need to then see what your customers want. And that is the basis behind when I started things like design thinking, things like innovation, because you are seeing it from the point of your receiver. So now we come to the point of stakeholders, right? So each people have a stakeholder. So your customer, what value do you bring to your customer? So that's what his concerns are. And if his concerns are met, you say, okay, I can buy this product and I got greater satisfaction because I can buy that product. If I'm an investor, what do you want to look? What is the risk if I fund in your social enterprise? So the big word here is RISK, right? And that is why you have people like Mark over here, or Professor Shen, who actually looks at risk management. There's people like Angel, who actually looks at your compliance to certain standards to actually say that, hey, you're less risky than what we have. So as an investor, if I throw in money, I say, yeah, that's okay, that's fine. You're less risky. So I can actually throw my funds in you because I know it's going to work. It's not going to be dissipated in a way that's not going to work. And that's why Spring Rain came up with their own financial planning scheme. You say, okay, you got the funds. You use 25% of it. You save part of it, right? And then use part of it to market your stuff. You see, so actually you're trying to build self-sufficiency around that. Your employees, right? Because you won't be the only one doing that. There are people that are in the village is going to help you do that, right? So then again, you talk about job lah. If there's no demand for my thing, if you're not selling, how to pay them? So then you have to think about these things, because when you go internationally, they're brutal, right? And of course, what they think about the families, because over here, we're talking about feeding putting food on the table. And about my ecosystem, am I actually addressing the social need, right? And of course, if you're addressing the need, you're addressing the purpose, and you're doing the work of God. So what I'm trying to say is, where you are right now, in whatever area and whatever position you are, you have a structure, right? And so we all talk about systems and structures just now. It's so important. And your structure has got a certain process, and you have certain people with certain skills that can produce an outcome, right? And it works within your ecosystems of innovators and early adopters, right? But now, if you're going international, going regional, can you use the same system and structure to do things internationally or for the different process? If you're doing everything by hand, perhaps maybe they are looking for more. So what do you need to do to change that, right? Because the desired outcomes is different from your current outcomes, right? So there's a change that's needed, and that will impact your stakeholders, like they'll impact your employees. How do I upskill them, right, to do whatever it needs to be done? Because these two don't match. So if you're at this stage and you want to go internationally, what's going to happen? You need to re-examine your assumptions. The first assumptions I made was for the fact that I'm going to help my village alleviate poverty and set up my hospital or set up my rabbit farm to do that and all that. Yeah, and it works for that. But if I am going to export it, I got to change the way I look at things, right? And ask existential questions of business. Hey, can it run? If this is my market, if this is my target audience, if people don't buy, I may produce as many rabbits as possible, but nobody wants to buy them, right? So then how can you sell if nobody buys? So then you ask, so do I need to grow that big? That's the other question, right? What does it take for me to reach a wider audience? And we're going to touch on that very soon. And who are my stakeholders? Because the stakeholders right now are probably Spring Rain Global and some of the micro investors who actually helped me through. And I think, thankfully, Father Ray is very good to have to get Chevron and all that to be helping him, right? But for the rest of you, you need to understand, if you want them to be stakeholders, you must appeal to them, right? So now we're talking about how you move from local to international. And moving from one to there are questions you need to ask yourself. So don't worry, it's okay if you are at whatever part of your journey. What's important is you need to learn how to ask the right questions. And you know what? When you ask the right questions, journal them. So what we try to help you do is to help you understand this and reevaluate what you're doing right now to make sure that you are at the right place for that to happen. And so this is one model of design thinking or business design, whatever you call it. You see, what I'm trying to do is to move from the problem over here, right down to the opportunity statement. And from there, what we're trying to do is going to help you to innovate and to come out with what's my business going to be. Some of you are already there, so you can start from here, right? But you need to reassess them, right? So you reassess them again and see what your business case is, because when you build your business case, what you get is a business plan. And that is what investors want to see. And the right business plan that appeals to the right investor will give you the right amount of dollars to support you. So in how we do it, we've got templates to help you on your journey. So what I try to do is to get you guys on a little journey, a little workshop of how you actually build your own ideas. And you follow the templates. And we'll help you through a workshop. We'll help you build journals, and our learning journals are actually elements to building a business plan, right? by asking the right questions. Because if you're asking the right questions, and you know what, you can put your view of how well you're doing your work. As a coach, we're also going to put our view of how well you are doing your stuff. And we have a discussion. We're not here to criticize you, but we are here to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Right? And that's where hopefully you can work with Professor or Dr. Shen to at least come out with the right indicators where investors would like, or even Angel, for investors would like to see in order to actually want to say that you're less of a risk to put my money on, because it could be a donor, but it could be someone from outside who wants to invest in your capability. Because why? I've got labor that I can afford, and I can produce things, and we've got very good productivity workers and all that, and I've got raw materials. So it's a good place to put my money on. So it may not even be a donor. It may be an investor, and I'll show you the differences as we come along. And that's where we come in to talk to you and actually have the discussions and see where you're at. And trust me, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. And it's all right to make mistakes. And one of the questions will be on succession plan. So what are you doing? Who do you have in your organization to replace if this person goes? And I'm sure Father JP is very well aware of it because he's an OD practitioner. Because in OD, you need to learn about succession management, right? And so we coach you on this, but we do it in a simplistic way because I don't think we can, the big corporate speak in enterprise will be quite a difficult thing to do. And of course, at the end of the day, that's what you get. Okay? So this is the idea that we put forward for you. And this is a bit more detailed. The words are a bit more businessy. Yeah, but in essence, what it's saying is saying the same thing. And end of the day, it's all about value. So part of it is to reassess your purpose. Part of it is to reassess your audience, your approach to running the social enterprise, right? And all of this with the whole idea of reducing business risks. So we will have a scoring mechanism, and the scoring mechanism is how we rate you versus how they rate you. You rate yourself and see how that works and whether it makes sense, right? So the people that we try to bring to support you on that are actually startup coaches, people that work with startups, hundreds of them, and how to actually make things that work well. Now, some examples of organizations that have actually leveraged on social innovation. Let me give you one. I tried this before, and this is coffee from Nicaragua, and it's run by the Franciscan Missions. So it suddenly appeared on my Facebook page. It's like, hey, I need to buy this. So I bought this for my sister for Christmas. Right? So it's going to cost a little more, but you know what? People are willing to buy to support the missions. And halfway around the world, Nicaragua is in Central America, and I'm in Singapore. But hey, I bought it. So you can sell. And because if you have platforms to sell, then you can sell. The only thing is, how do you deliver? Huh? That's the problem, right? So we'll talk about it soon. This is interesting. Okay. So these guys remain within the city. They are based in Mumbai. They are called the Dabbawalas. So our friends here would know very well who they are. You know what they do? They transport lunches. They transport lunches from the homes of the office workers right down through in town. They navigate. They got no bicycle. They have no cars, nothing. Some of them have bicycles. Some of them walk to their destinations. Some of them take the train. So unless the train is spoiled or breaks down or anything like that, the lunch will get there on time, and the lunch is a correct lunch because they have a system of numbers and letters that will actually designate the right lunchbox to the right audience. But you know what? They don't have, some of them can't read and write. So yes, They can make a meaningful business. They can't read and write. But you know what? It's a business case. People use this as a business case. It's one of the best cases for operational excellence. And this is from people from God knows Oxford or Harvard or whatever not, that actually use this as a business case. So it's damn interesting, right? Right. So, and they're surviving. And this is a 125-year-old society that does this in India. Can we do it in Metro Manila? Right? This one, corporate partnerships, because you know what? Just as you trying to grow, people want to grow with you, right? So I think this was part of ABPN, if I'm not mistaken, right? So what they try to do is you're trying to help you to become their supplier, because they do other things. Otherwise, IKEA, we all love IKEA in Singapore, right? And especially if you're going overseas to study, you know, and then you're in a hostel and you need to buy furniture. First place to go to. I assemble myself. So it's good, right? And you guys are the ones that can help with this. So there are programs, and right now we need to bridge those programs together, right? But if you're thinking of going international, you have to work around all these complications, right? Because the shipping, what are the complications resulting to shipping? You know that. I was just talking to my friend at breakfast in one of the hawker centers in Singapore. He was telling me, hey, you know what? Some of our ships have to be rerouted because the Houthis are firing at the ships because of the fight between Israel and Palestine, and they're supporting the Palestinians. Right? And so there are so many of these things happening and that impacts how your goods move. You talk about infrastructure. Do I have the right means to be able to upscale myself, right? Trade financing, that's another interesting thing. You bring your goods to one place, but you know what? The last mile logistics provider don't want to move the goods for you. Why? I'm not getting paid. But you know what? You need the goods to get to the end of your destination in order for them to pay you. So what's the problem? Cash flow. So how do I manage that, right? So there are issues relating to cash flow. There are issues relating to international regulation. And I'm sharing with some of you. You know, in Singapore, like 20 years ago, we had the Nipah virus in Malaysia, next door. We get our pigs from Malaysia. And you know what? We had no pigs because the farms closed down. People who run the farms die because the pigs had viruses. So what happens? So now the thing, food security. So where do we get our pork from? So we went to good old Aussie mate, and we went to Australia, and we actually went to the Australia farm, and we teach them, this is how Singapore likes its pigs, its pork. We don't like the smell that way. We like it here, like it there. And you need to go by our AVA standards before you can ship the things across. Can you be part of that food security for Singapore? It is possible. But what do you need? We need the network, and we need the understanding of what they need. And then how do we need to reshape what we are doing right now to be able to be a provider to them? You see? So these are the things that we look at, right? And these are all parts of risk management that most people know, most people are unaware, but they exist to this day. Let's see what other people talk about. People in the Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, right? 70% of adults, thank you, 70% of adults, according to Bain & Co., a management consulting firm, have no bank accounts. Am I right to hear that? Correct, right? So how do you deal with that, right? But you know what? 326.3 million smartphone users in Southeast Asia. And what does that see? These are what CEOs of companies like Grab and companies like fintech companies like Anthony Momo are saying. There are opportunities. So as much as you're looking to go international, They're looking to go provincial and local too. And you want to match the two together because the desire is there. And this is where we hope to bring the both of you together, right? And these are words from he recently stepped down at the Monetary Authority governor in Singapore. And this is why I say, instant payment make cross-border payments cheaper, faster, and more efficient. Can we do that? Can we do that with e-commerce, with the internet? It is possible, right? Seamless financial transactions. And you're talking about the governor of a very well-regulated monetary authority of Singapore. And they actually have a treaty with Ghana in Africa. Why would they have that? Simple, because Ghana is also an entry port. And you can move things out of Africa to other parts of the world. But you know what, when you come to Singapore, it takes you 12 hours to clear customs. If you go next door, Tanjung Pelepas in Malaysia, it might take you 10 days, right? And think about your cash flow. So that's another challenge over there, right? So what we try to do is to try and make this form of financial security safe, right? And people trust in it because you know what? A lot of people don't go to banks because they don't trust the banks. So try and make it a system, try and make it international, and people will be able to trade. And that's why people without bank accounts or can use e-wallets to do your trading, or perhaps through the PDOs, get something done. So there are possibilities, right? And what is Spring Ring Global and Ecosystem for Good? What are you guys doing, right? No, you need a trainer to support things, and then you need people down here to facilitate and build the ecosystem, and over here to provide some help and funding. And Vincent himself has a social commerce solution where you can buy and sell trade. He talked about it yesterday, right? And what we need to do is get you connected with global trade routes, logistics, and ecosystems. How do we start that? So even for us based in Singapore, the whole SJI alumni, the LaSallian alumni, we're coming back together and say, hey, how can we help social enterprises? And in fact, the Singapore Business Federation invited us to say, we like you because you know other LaSallians in other parts of the world. And we know there's a mission there. Can we help with all the businesses within the Singapore Business Federation? I think about 15,000 of them. So there are possibilities, right? But we need to create the connections. We need to build that. So at the end of the day, to summarize, internally, you may need to think of organizational change, how you finance your enterprise, and perhaps again, who are the partners, who are the investors, whatever not. You need to look at the environment if you're working externally. You need to look at trends because people don't see trends as much. And you need to look at competition because you're not the only one, all right? And eventually, what are things to fulfill this trade? You need trading platforms. You need shipping and transportation treaties and things to actually get things done. And you need to understand compliance issues within country. And I guess that's where Angel and AGF is pretty good at looking at these things, because if you have international standard, it helps, right? So what I'm saying is the different stages of growth require different considerations, right? So we know that everybody's are different. So then you need to reflect on yourself and have an alternative perspective. So to conclude, my last slide, okay? 1, define your purpose and your social impact. What value do you bring to the market and to your stakeholders? Not only to your customers, but to the people that are supporting you, right? So define them and what you need to do. Challenge your assumptions, because I've done well, I've done good. How can I do better, right? Challenge it. What I do more? What do I do less? Because maybe I'm good because of this, but in order to go to this market, I need to do less of this and more of something else. leverage on new networks, and while recalibrating your purpose and social impact. I say calibrate, don't change your purpose, okay? Basically, we are people who are doing good. And at the end of the day, what value do I bring to the market and my stakeholders now? And that's what you need to ask yourself. Again, hold true to your mission and values and bring dignity to the last, the least, and the lost. These are the words, and these are what the charisms of St. John Baptist de La Salle. And that's what we learn in our school, so we try to embrace it as well. Thank you very much for listening.